Hey everybody, how are we doing? I am on the East Coast this morning, at least for another 15 minutes before I head to the airport. So I just wanted to get on and do the Let's Get Live with Dracaena Wines. Today we're going to be talking about leaf hopper damage in the vineyard. I'm always talking about stuff in this, in the vineyards and in the winery itself. So I thought that it would be kind of interesting to talk about something that can happen in the vineyard that can affect the fruit. And one of the things that really is kind of a big deal along all of California vineyards is the leaf hopper. So they're little itty bitty bugs, but they can really cause quite a bit of damage, and maybe not for a single vintage, although it can occur, but for the future of the vine, we really can get into a lot of trouble if the leaf hopper is hanging out in the vineyard for quite a bit of time. So I want to talk about leaf hoppers. And so this is a leaf hopper, and they basically belong to the family Cicadellidae. These are insects. They are arthropods. Arthropods mean that they have an external skeleton. So they're that crunchy people, those crunchy organisms. Okay, and there are approximately 22,000 species of Cicadellidae in the world, and about 3,000 of them actually reside in North America. So we have quite a bit of diversity among them within North America. Their life cycle, which can vary from individual species to individual species, does follow a generic pattern. Basically, the female is going to lay her eggs into the living plant tissue, and then the eggs are going to remain dormant anywhere between a month and a year. And typically, when the eggs hatch, the nymph, which is that life cycle stage, the nymph is going to go through a process of 5 molts. And in each molt, they are then going to get larger, and they're going to ultimately become the adult. And this process, depending again on the species, can take anywhere between several weeks and a month. Now, within California, we have 3 major species of leafhopper. We have the grape leafhopper, which that's in the, I always say this wrong, Tehachapi Mountains, the San Joaquin, Sacramento, North Coast, and the Central Coast. That's kind of the big one in those regions. The variegated leafhopper is found mostly in Southern California, but does go all the way up to the San Joaquin County, and they have spotted it recently in Napa County. And finally, the third one is the Virginia creeper. And this leafhopper is a lot less common, and it's in the Sacramento Valley, but it has been spotted in the Mendocino and Lake counties, along with the Sierra foothills. So they are really starting to migrate into a larger vicinity of where they can be found. And I find that completely amazing because they're so small, and how they can migrate, what they can do. So if we are going to look at their life cycle, here is their life cycle. So leafhoppers rely on dead grass and the falling leaves in order to survive the winter. Basically, they huddle on up in that debris in order to overwinter, is what it is called. So their life cycle is dependent on both temperature and the length of daylight, which is kind of a cool concept, which is similar to the grapevine itself, right? The grapevine starts to come alive when the temperatures start to reach a consistent temperature, and the daylight, we get more daylight and these plants come alive. It's same thing with the leafhopper. Okay, so excuse me. Adults begin to awaken when the temperatures pretty much reach 64 degrees consistently, so that they can have enough temperature to basically wake up their chemistry to come alive. So once they wake up, they immediately start to feed on the new foliage of the grapevine. And what they're going to do is the females are going to lay their eggs beneath the leaf epidermis. So the epidermis is that outer skin layer, right? Same thing with us, epidermis. And they're going to do it right at the base of the leaves. And each female can lay between 100 and 140 eggs. So when you expand that out, you can really think about how many leafhoppers can actually be in there. So the first generation of nymphs can be found along the shoots. And as the vintage progresses, they molt and they molt and they molt. So they can molt up to 4 times, so 5 stages. And their first instar, that's what it's called, the first instar is very pale white with red eyes. And they are kind of, really tiny. They don't have their wings, and they measure about 1 millimeter. So it's really tough to see them. You really have to start looking for them early. Progressing through those next 4 stages of molting, they ultimately are going to grow with each stage, and they're going to get their wings, and they become more of a yellowish color, and their eyes begin to start to match their body. So those red eyes now become kind of yellowish. And then with each molt, the leafhopper gets larger, and they ultimately, their adult size is only about 3 millimeters. So super, super tiny. Now, as the daylight hours begin to shorten, this triggers the leafhopper to enter the reproductive stage. So now we're kind of already past the main vintage, what they're doing, and now they're going to get ready for the next life cycle. So the daylight hours are going to shorten. This triggers chemistry within that leafhopper, and that leafhopper is going to start to go into their reproductive stage. Once we have under 12 hours of daylight, the female matures, they mate, and then they once again insert their eggs into the host plant, and they begin to prepare for overwintering for the next season. So I think it's kind of cool how their chemistry is related to the amount of daylight. So not only the temperature, but the amount of daylight. So I don't know. Call me the geeky science person, but I just think that's pretty cool. Now, what is not cool is what they can do to the vine while they are actively feeding. So as the leafhopper feeds, basically what they are doing is they are puncturing that middle layer of the leaf, the mesophyll cells, on the underside. So you can't, they're clever little bugs. They don't hang out on the top part of the leaf where it's easy to see them. They're going to hang out on the bottom side of the leaf. So in order to see them, if there's no damage on the leaf, in order to see them, you kind of got to flip over that leaf and you got to check them out, okay? So what they do is they kind of inject their mouth parts into that mesophyll of the leaf, and then they start to suck out the contents. And then this is what you can see is what's happening is what they leave behind is a trail of light brown or yellow kind of whitish marks on the leaves. And this pattern here is called stippling. And basically what they're doing is they're consuming that chlorophyll. So since they're consuming chlorophyll, it is going to cause a reduction in photosynthesis. Now, it's thought that each leafhopper, each nymph, right, each leafhopper can consume about 0.01 inches squared daily, which may not sound like a lot, but when you multiply it times the 140 and then how many leafhoppers there are, it really can take a big toll on the leaf. As you can see in this leaf in the image, right, that's a lot of spots that's going on there, okay? And this can be extremely devastating to the vine. So as the chlorophyll is diminished, chlorosis, that yellowing of the leaf, can occur, and it will actually cause some of the leaves to become dry. They no longer can function the way they're supposed to function. And within a season, the decreased photosynthesis may prevent the grapes from fully ripening. So now we're going to have an issue with not having ripened grapes. So that's the quality of the grape is going to go down. This may also lead to early leaf drop. If the early leaf drop occurs, then in two consecutive vintages, then the vine actually may be harmed for multiple vintages afterwards and actually can never recover. So one vintage, not so bad, but if they keep continuing to feed and we have this early leaf drop, that vine is not going to be able to recover, and now the vine is going to die. Okay, so what do we do? So there's there's ways to monitor for leafhopper in the egg stage, but it's really, really difficult to see them. So we want to start monitoring when we get into that nymph stage, right? We're not going to see those eggs at the basal portion of the leaf. We want them to be that white with the red eyes. We want to start seeing them then, and that way they kind of stand out against the green, and they really haven't done that much damage yet. So as monitoring is done, we're observing the top of the leaves and we're looking for white spots. And then we begin monitoring, kind of in mid to late May. And at this point of the season, the nymphs are there, and that's when we can really attack them. All right. There's a lot of natural predators that can help us regulate those leafhoppers, right? We have the parasitic wasp, the lady beetle, funnel weaver spider, Argon sac spider. So these are natural predators that are going to eat those nymphs that are really going to help us. But if we can't use the natural predators, they're not there, they're not eating enough of them, there's other things we can do. And now there is a compound called the pyrethroids, and these are what are used in insecticides to kill the adult leafhoppers. The problem is if we're going to kill them organically, we have to get them when they're nymphs. The organic process of killing the leafhoppers really do not go against the adults. So we have to get them when they're younger. So what we can do organically is there's like narrow range of oils like neem oil, insecticidal soaps, pyganic or kaolin clay. These all can go on to be sprayed onto the leaves in order to kill the nymphs. But it needs to be done. You need to pay attention to the temperature, to the weather, okay, because we don't want it to get super hot when we spray the leaves, and we don't want it to rain. So depending on how you want to approach these leafhoppers, you have to make sure you are getting them in that nymph stage if we want it to be organic. So I hope that gives you a little bit, maybe too much information about a leafhopper. But anyway, I hope you have a great week. If there's something you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. Like, share, save, do all that good stuff. And come on back and take a look at the leafhoppers. Kind of cool organisms, but not really good for the vineyard. And again, most vineyards are probably going to have them in California. It's a matter of controlling them so that they don't get out of get those massive numbers where they are going to start doing permanent damage. So have a great week. Talk to you soon. Slancha.